welcome once again to Cinemaholics, the major motion podcast, where we talk about the biggest and best films coming to theaters and streaming online. From the San Francisco Bay Area, I'm John Carney, film editor for InBetweenDrafts.com. And from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, he's a freelance film writer and musician lover. It's Will Ashton.
What up? I'm not going to sing. I'm not going to give you that luxury, I guess. Or that
done
torture.
It before.
Yeah, I guess. Have I sung on the podcast before?
You have. The Christmas episode.
Christmas episode.
Yeah, well, I think it was a Christmas episode. You did. I'll dig up the tapes, but yes, it was during the gas leak year, 2020.
Okay. I'll take your word for it.
Today we're talking about Flora and Son, the latest John Carney movie. Now, we're pretty late on recording this week, and so things are a little bit doubling up in terms of releases, this weekend's releases, and we're recording this on a Friday. So we're already into the next week. We already have The Creator, which just came out, and I reviewed for In Between Drafts, one of the big movies of the week. There's also Saw 10, right?
X, yeah. Saw X, I think.
Saw X, yeah. And then there's also Paw Patrol, the Mighty Movie, which, we were going to talk about. There's also Dumb Money, Dick's the musical screenings are starting up, but we're talking about Flora and Son, not any of those. Although I assume, we're going to be talking about The Creator on the next show. Is that the plan?
I guess so, yeah. I was going to say there's also No One Will Save You, which I guess kind of came out of the blue, but that's from the, was it Brian Duffield who did?
Brian Duffield.
Spontaneous. Yeah.
Spontaneous. Yeah, and so that movie with Caitlin DeVere, that movie is out on Hulu right now. It's at 20th Century Studios. 20th Century Studios is just like all over the place. The Creator is a 20th Century Studios film. Flora and Son is Apple. But there was another 20th Century Studios film that just dropped like the week before. I'm going to find it right now. But yeah, that studio's been just pumping them out. But No One Will Save You is on Hulu right now. And yeah, so Will Ashton. Oh yeah, Haunting in Venice. That's what I was thinking of. The last episode we did on Cinemaholics. There you go.
Yeah, but there was Expendables 4 or X4ables or Pon 4, whatever it is. I know we deliberately were just like, nah, we're not gonna.
Nah, I haven't seen any of those. I don't have any interest. And yeah, this coming week I'm going to be seeing All Dirt Roads Taste of Salt, and I'm going to be seeing The Exorcist Believer, which Will still believes that I won't watch. But even on top of like all these big movies, we never got to Dumb Money, which I might be seeing soon. There's also some big streaming stuff coming out. Loki is getting its new season. Sex Education is its final season. Man, look, Gen V, the Boys spinoff. And for my taste, Will Ashton, Fear and Beyond Journey's End, this anime that I know you've been looking forward to a lot. You're a big fan of. I watched the first 4 episodes of today, and they're amazing. Oh, and Ahsoka. Have you watched any of Ahsoka?
I have not watched any of those TV shows you just mentioned, and I don't think I'm ever going to.
I think I purposely went through a list of all the things that will not watch, thus we will not get to here, but that's fine. No, we're going to talk. I know you watched Stop Making Sense.
Yes. The
Jonathan Demme Talking Heads thing, and that I saw that was making
it was my first time seeing it.
I know.
Certainly seen it before, but yeah, they were playing in IMAX courtesy of A24.
That movie came out the 84, I want to say.
I think it was 84. Got a new restoration, looks great, sounds even better. If anyone hasn't had a chance to see Stop Making Sense and it's still playing in a theater near you, particularly an IMAX theater near you, highly recommend watching it. Quite arguably the best concert film of all time, certainly one of the best concert films of all time. I don't know if you've seen it, John, but
the original, and I heard it's a real experience. So
yeah. It's the same movie. It's not like it's not a remake. I don't know why you call it the original, but yeah, it's like the same movie, just with the A24 logo on top, and it's just a great time.
But no, we're talking about Flora and Son, which I was really much looking forward to. People who've been listening to us long enough might know that I am a huge fan of John Carney. Sing Street is one of my favorite movies just ever. And I like his other movies a lot too. I think a lot of people looking at his filmography will probably say, Once is the best one.
Yes.
It was his breakout hit. It won Best Original Song. That's the 2007 film. And I get it. I rewatched Once last year, and I rewatch it every few years. It's just genuinely a blissful, beautiful movie. And you can see sort of like that movie really sets up. It wasn't his first movie, obviously. It's even sole directing, but it's the one that I think that's really defined his style moving forward. After that, he did Zonad, which I don't love as much, but it's still good. And Begin Again, which I really like. That's the Mark Ruffalo and Keira Knightley movie. That one I think is not quite as popular with people. I want to say, like, I remember when it came out, people were a little bit like, well, it's not Once, which fair. But then Sing Street came out.
I mean, I didn't see. Yeah. What was the? You just said it, but what's the film in between Once and Begin Again?
Zonad. So that was the one with that John Carney directed with Kieran Carney. So that one, not a very recognizable cast compared to Begin Again. Yeah, I mean, it was fun. It was just kind of like a smaller movie compared to Once. It just didn't have as big of it. It was a very short movie. I think it wasn't even an hour. It's not even an hour and a half. It's less than that. And it's a tight Irish movie, worth checking out. But it's small and it's neat because it's based on. I think it's one of the movies. It's based on a short film he did before Once, I should say.
Oh, okay. It's funny you said it's a smaller film than Once, because Once is a super tiny movie.
I know. Even compared to that, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, as far as his filmography goes, I have seen now 4 of his films, and they're all, I think, of that archetype that you're talking about. I should make a point to kind of check out because I know he has one with Cillian Murphy, I think just before Once, and as well as that film you just mentioned. And
yeah, that's
they seem like
On
they
the
are.
Edge.
Yes, yeah. And it seems like those ones are a little bit different than what we've kind of acquainted to John Carney's style. But yeah, I mean, I will say, I've talked about this on the podcast before, but 2006, 2007 was a really big year as far as my understanding and appreciation of film, particularly independent film. And discovering Once was one of those, very meaningful and meaningful moments, because it was one of those films where it felt like a true discovery for me. I mean, obviously it has gone on since to win an Oscar and became a Broadway play, but when I saw it, it was just wow, you can make a movie like this for such a small budget, such a contained story with 2 very lived-in, honest characters. And that scene where you hear falling slowly, it just feels very spontaneous and very lovely. And I don't think he's ever, in my view, going to recapture that charm and that magic again, but I've always been excited and eager to check out what he does. And yeah, I think Beginning Again, I don't think he ever really felt comfortable transitioning into North America as far as his filmmaking goes, but I think that's a decent enough film. I remember thinking it was charming for what it was.
I think I've only seen it twice, and yeah, I've seen Once more than once, and Begin Again twice. Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, I know you're definitely. I do like Sing Street. I think you had a much stronger relationship to that film, and I'm not going to take that away from you. I really did find it charming and sweet, and it's
Oh, I don't want to undersell it. I think Sing Street is genuinely one of our great movies. I mean, I think that it's it just captures, I think, the freedom and restrictedness of youth in a way that very few movies of the 2010s were able to pull off. And I think that's brotherhood story too. It's so unflinchingly honest. I would sing the praises of Sing Street any day and defend it as more than just good. I think it's a genuinely truly great movie.
Yeah, I mean, I did like it. I can't say I had that strong a reaction to it. I do fittingly, as you mentioned, remember the brother dynamic better than I think the song element and the coming of age.
That's funny. I love the music in it. And I'm not even the biggest fan of 80s music, specifically UK 80s music. I like it, but it's yeah, I think that they did such a good job with the music in the movie, in my opinion. That is coming from someone who I watch it all the time. So I do have that relationship with the movie.
And I'm not saying the music's bad or anything. I do like the music. And I'm just saying that when I think back in the movie, the stuff, for whatever reason, I reflect on is the brother dynamic with Jack Reynor, who I think does give probably, if not his best, one of his best performances in that.
I would agree, yeah.
And then I didn't know he was going to be in Flora and Son. So when he showed up, I was pretty excited. I was like, oh, he's reunited with John Carney. It's fun. Good to see him again.
It's good to see another John Carney movie again. He's been producing stuff. But yeah, he just hasn't been behind the director's camera in a while. He hasn't. This is his first movie in 7 years, and What?
I'm sorry. What was that phrase? Behind the director's camera?
The director's camera? I don't know. I threw some words together, having a little bit of fun. It's Friday morning. What are we going to do? But yeah, no, I'm a total mark for John Carney, and I definitely am a big fan of his work. Just really like bringing Irish cinema too to more people in North America. I think is always great, and yeah, he's one of the directors who's done a great job of that. Flora and Son, also an Irish movie, so he's staying in Ireland, and I think that like he's kind of I don't want to say learned his lesson, but I think it's just sort of like, all right, I have this niche, right, where like even I know you kind of jumped over it a little bit, but even On the Edge, which is not nearly as much of like a musical kind of movie, it does have some musical elements, but it also has that kind of that same sort of type of romance, like kind of an unrequited romance, but one that sort of like builds over time. That's a very John Carney thing. He really, loves building that kind of thing, and you never know in his movies like where it's totally going to go. I think that's why some people maybe had a weird reaction to Begin Again, because that movie subverted that to some extent. But Flora and Son is very much just sort of like I think Carney's attempt to refine his style and maybe create something similar to what he's done before, but maybe just a little bit more focused, a little bit more specific, while also kind of avoiding some of the things like it's not Sing Street. It's not trying to be like this woman is going to like become this amazing guitarist overnight. He kind of quickly does away with that sort of thing, like that thing you would expect from him, but he's still tapping into the same themes and ideas, that he's cultivated for years now, and other movies that he's been, compared to, his work has been compared to. Hearts Beat Loud is the one I was thinking about a lot during this movie. I forget who directed Heart Beats Loud, but yeah.
I never saw that one, but I did have to double check to make sure he didn't do that film, because it has been a while. Like, he hasn't done a movie in between this and Sing Street, right?
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. It's been 7 years.
Right. Yeah. So for a moment, I had to be like, did he do Hearts Being Loud? And I just like kind of glazed over that. But
no. He wasn't associated with that movie at all. But I remember when that movie came out in 2018, like people were like, oh, hey, this is like for John Carney fans, this is the thing to watch. And, if you watch it, yeah, it's very much like kind of riffing off of the Sing Street and Once formula. But and it's not a bad movie. You get to see Ted Danson behind a bar again, so that's fun. But no, Flora and Son follows a single mother named Flora. Obviously, she's played by Eve Hewson. We've talked about her on the show, I think, a couple of times. She was in The Knick, which I know you're a fan of. That's Steven Soderbergh movie.
Show. It's
show.
Yes, I love The Knick. I think that might be my favorite thing that Soderbergh has directed, quote unquote, post retirement.
I think the most recent thing we talked about, or that I saw her in, was Behind Her Eyes, the Netflix show that I talked about on here with Amanda the Jedi, and then also Tesla. She was in that movie, and she was also in the Robin Hood movie before that. So she's come up. And,
man, are you talking about that Taron Egerton?
Yeah. Did I tell you that I rewatched that movie unintentionally?
What do you mean?
So I was on a plane. It was when I was on a plane to Australia, and I had just watched. I think it was around the time I was watching like Uncharted through somebody else's screen. So it was at night, So like I didn't want to have the screen on like on the seat of the plane because it would be really bright. My wife was next to me and she was trying to sleep, so I kept it off. And so I was just like, I was just sitting there. And I was like, oh, I'll just sit here and like I don't want to have any screens. But then I saw like there were screens in front of me, and I watched the entirety of Robin Hood because it had the subtitles. So I was able to do that to the people in front of me. And I was like, man, this movie sucks. I wonder what's going to happen next. I forgot. But anyway,
I imagine you didn't log that on Letterboxd, but I think you should have.
I think I might have.
Possible. Did you? I mean, I just imagine you would just be like, I watched the movie the way it was meant to be seen on someone else's screen on an Atlantic flight.
Well, no, not Atlantic. We went over the Arctic.
Oh, sorry.
I think. I don't even remember what our trajectory was, but yeah. Actually, no, I think you're right. It was over. Well, no, you're not right. It was over the Pacific. Jesus, we were going to Australia. Like, what am I thinking? I'm thinking of when we went to Italy. That was over the Arctic.
All right. Anyway. Well, let's go back to Ireland and talk about Flora.
Back to Ireland. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's a decent enough segue. So anyway, she's a single mother. Eve Hewson, love to see her. She has a teenage son named Max. He's played by Orén Kinlan, who I'm not as familiar with. I think this might be one of his first movies. And he's just kind of like a troublemaker. He's a petty thief, but a lot of the stuff he like steals has to do with his passion for making music. And he's making music because he wants to impress a girl, enter Sing Street. But Flora is kind of like a little bit, like the character from Once, but she has more of an edge to her. She's like a combination of like the girl from Once and then the girl from what was that movie? Wild Rose with Jessie Buckley. Where she's a little bit like, she cusses, she swears, she knows who she is, and you're not going to take that away from her. You know what I mean?
Sure.
She's a 100% that, but anyway, she also, she used to be married to Max's dad, who's played by Jack Reynor. And Jack Reynor is this kind of washed up musician named Ian. And so Ian is like this kind of pretentious, kind of like, my band was awesome. We opened for Snow Patrol. But, he's kind of like a loser. He plays video games all day. Flora is like really annoyed with him because he won't, really take care of his son. And she kind of wants to impress her son, or she wants to like connect with him in some way. So she kind of just throws a lifeline out there. She tries to give him a guitar, like just this beat up guitar she got at a pawn shop. Max isn't interested at all. It's not that movie, where like they bond over learning to play the guitar together. No. Instead, she takes the guitar. She's like, you know what? I'm going to learn it myself. And his dad is a little bit like, what are you can't just like learn the guitar. Are you stupid? And she's just like, I think you're stupid. And so she starts trying to do it. And this movie has a very relatable sequence where it's her going through YouTube videos trying to learn how to do something. Well, I don't know how often you've done stuff like that, but for me, that is just such a common thing. It's something that I know so many people do. I was like, you just like the other day, I literally was like, I was like reading a book, and I was like, one of the characters is Scottish, and I was like, I don't really have like a great grasp of like a Scottish accent. So I watched a couple of YouTube videos on how to do a Scottish accent so I could better like have that voice. And like, I just do that for everything now. My dad does stuff like that. Like the other day, my dad was kind of like, oh man, I had to like repair this door hinge. I didn't know how to do it. And I was like, oh, I was trying to like, walk him through it. And he was just like, well, I watched on YouTube. And I'm like, you do that too? I know, Will, you're about to say like, I do everything on my own. I'm a man.
No, I feel like I do that a lot with like car stuff. Like if something's happening and it's like,
oh yeah, changing out my fluids.
Yeah. And it's like some guy, and like, like probably like my setup right now, like on his phone, like in the middle of wherever, and he's just like, hey, it's your pal, Gary Buck coming at you. Here, I'm gonna tell you how to fix your carburetor.
There's this meme about that where it's just like you have like some kind of like random specific problem, and then in comes somebody from 12 years ago with a YouTube channel and 12 followers.
Yeah, it's like 180 FP or whatever. And
those are the best. That's how you know those are like reliable though. You're like, all right, we're good. Also, they always have like an accent of some kind.
Yeah.
Perfect. But no, she has this scene, Flora does, where she's like trying to find like, guitar lessons, basically learn how to play guitar. And she comes across a guy named Jeff, played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt. He's like, I didn't know he was in this. And I know you mentioned before you didn't know that Jack Reynor was in this. I didn't know that Eve Hewson was in this. I didn't know that Joseph Gordon-Levitt was in this. I just watched this totally fresh.
I did know that Joseph Gordon-Levitt was in it, because I do remember the coverage from this coming out of Sundance, and it was pretty positive. Actually, I think it was really positive initially, and then I just remember hearing that it was Eve Hewson and Joseph Gordon-Levitt. So I was kind of surprised that it took a little bit before we got to Joseph Gordon-Levitt. But yeah.
I don't think it was that long. I think it was like towards the end of the first act. So yeah, it takes a minute. And it's not a long movie. This is 97 minutes. I think I mentioned before, it's in select theaters right now, and it's hitting streaming today. So we're recording this on September 29th. So people will be able to actually watch this on the day we put this episode out, which is nice. But so Eve Hewson, her character is, like she immediately sees him and she's like, all right, this guy seems like maybe he could be the one. I think she just kind of has like a crush on him on his video. So she like hits him up for like guitar lessons. Mm-hmm. And so the movie kind of does this interesting thing where it's kind of going back and forth between her learning how to play guitar with this guy who lives in Los Angeles, like other side of the world. And like, they kind of like, they have like a rocky start because she's a little bit, she's Irish. She's very blunt. She kind of tells him how it is with like his own sort of like songwriting. But then also she is starting to use her, like her newfound hobby of like, I like music. I've always liked music, but like for her, she likes pop music more. She likes dance music. She doesn't really like this kind of like John Carney music where it's like, once, it's a little bit slower, a little bit more melodramatic, but it's also sort of like investigating like the limitations of that kind of music and her sort of blending the things that she likes in order to connect with her son. The movie also does this interesting thing where, it's a lot of Zoom calls, right? It's a lot of like her and Jeff, this guy in LA, kind of talking to each other over Zoom. So the way the movie gets around that is that eventually it starts to just put them in the frame and them imagining like being together in the same scene. You get used to it pretty quickly, but I could see some people being like, okay, it's a gimmick, see? But Will, what did you think? I mean, this movie, it's more John Carney. It's more of, I think, what his fans want, right? Is it something that you wanted?
Yeah, I mean, well, to answer your first question, I do think that was probably for the best because, I mean, I don't know, as much as people have been trying to work around the idea that we live in this very tech screen heavy day and age, it's kind of hard to make that very innately cinematic. So I think he worked around it pretty well. It's a little bit more visually inspired than I think his style usually tends to be. Not that he's like a bad visualist or anything, but I just feel like there's something innately kind of more grounded and simplistic about his visual aesthetic. So it does.
My only complaint is that like when they're doing the Zoom calls, the camera work looks too good on
for Gordon-Levitt, it does, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, what kind of like setup does he have? Like they should have made it more like low quality because then it would have made it even better when he's in the frame.
Yeah, because I mean, I thought it was interesting because they were pretty good about that with the other videos. I don't know if they actually just pulled up videos online or how that worked out, but when they
had
started
to have
out
filmed those
with the montage, and they were kind of smart about like also making the like recommended videos seem authentic, so it seemed like there was attention to detail there. But then you get the Joseph.
You get to Jeff, and it's like the lighting, and it's like, oh, here we go. Here's the plot. Yeah.
He looks like he's like in an Apple commercial. So,
are you just saying that because sometimes people confuse him with Justin Long?
No, I mean, and I was even clocking that this is now an
Apple TV. Yeah. This is. I think Apple really was looking at this as like maybe this is the next Coda. And in full disclosure, I do work for Apple. I don't work for Apple TV. So this is not a conflict of interest thing. But I'm giving my honest thoughts on the movie.
Yeah, you're gonna if you can feel free to take a huge shit on this movie. It would be funny if you were like hyping up John Carney this whole time and you're just like, man, this movie or oops. Let me tell you.
What podcast do you think we're on, Will Ashton? All these swears and cusses.
This movie sucks. But no, I do think maybe my one big complaint about the film is that I do feel like by John Carney standards, it does kind of fall into the once again thing where it's like a little safe by his standards. Not that I think he's ever really taken huge risks, though it does sound like you are a little bit more familiar with filmography, and I haven't seen.
I do like that you called it once again.
Oh yeah, sorry.
But that kind of works. I mean, you're just kind of mushing them together in a way, and that's fitting.
No, but that was not an intentional pun. But no, I do think he has kind of generally stuck to a formula, but it does seem like something like Sing Street is certainly a lot more personal, a little bit more self-exploitative and all that, and this one just seems like he's kind of fully fitting himself into like what people perceive to be like a John Carney film, I'll bet with maybe a little bit bigger budget and some more notable stars attached. So it does kind of feel like a meshing of like the North American Begin Again and then like what we've seen. But in general, I just feel like this kind of feels almost like kind of like a stew of John Carney movie. It just has a lot of elements you mentioned of his other films kind of work together. And initially, I guess I was a little resistant to that because it's just like, okay, it doesn't seem like it's really kind of doing, anything truly out of the box. It kind of seems like he's going maybe through the motions a little bit. But in true John Carney fashion, it is very endearing. It is very sweet. I do think Eve Hewson really fits into this character really well. I think she does have a very lived-in quality that was seen in The Nick and also is allowed to really flourish in this film. I think she is able to have pretty strong chemistry with Joseph Gordon-Levitt, which is impressive considering the limitations that are inherent in that character dynamic. I don't think it's like an amazing, groundbreaking movie, but it does feel very much like a film that'll be very safe, very comfortable in the Apple TV programming. It's comfortable, it's sweet, it's good natured. You're gonna walk away with a smile, or rather, sit up from your couch with a smile. And yeah, I mean, got some nice kind of cute tunes. I do kind of wish it had maybe a little bit more of an edge at times, especially when it comes to the son. The titular and son. I feel like there's like, like you said, like he's supposed to kind of be this rebel rouser, this troublemaker, but like we very rarely kind of focus on his like stealing and his kind of history of crime, to the point where when it's kind of reintroduced later in the film, I kind of had forgotten about it a little bit, because it's just like we spent so much time, seeing him as this scrappy little kid who has a crush on a neighbor girl and just wants to be a techno music guy and all this. And so I do think there is maybe a little bit of opportunity to like kind of make it a little bit more grounded and heartfelt. I think that is something that shines a little bit more in Once and in Sing Street. But overall, yeah, definitely had a lovely time. I think John Carney fans are going to like it. I imagine you liked it too.
Yeah, I liked it. I think that a lot of what you said, I'm totally jiving with, and I think that I want to say about the son, I think that like in the beginning of the movie, I don't like him, but I think that that's serving the movie's purpose. Like a lot of the beginning of the movie is like, well, the mom doesn't like him either. And over time, like I warmed up to him a bit. It's because I started to see those layers a bit more. There are a couple of, there are just like a couple of fun things that involve his character. He's kind of, he's super cringe. He's super like, he's just this kid that like, the movie never like overhypes like how good he is at music, but it also shows that like, yeah, he has potential and he just kind of wants to find his way. And that's kind of where he and his mother kind of like connect is in the fact that like their imperfections don't, they kind of realize together that they don't have to be, anything more than who they are. They can just keep trying to get better a day at a time. And I really think Eve Hewson is the reason this movie works, because the writing isn't like amazing. I think overall it's not a remarkable movie, but I think that her presence, her, and her musical quality. I mean, it is kind of funny that at least I haven't really seen her in anything musical, considering like Bono is her father. Like it is kind of funny in that way. But she has pipes. Like you can kind of see like, huh?
No, I said I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that maybe until now she's tried to like maybe shy away from that, but like yeah, she has like pretty natural talent because her singing is quite good, and her acting I think is even better. So I think that I think she did. She was in that music video though for the script way back in the day for the first time. I don't know if you're a fan of the script at all. I used to be back when I was in college, but yeah, no, she because they're an Irish band, so I think that was like one of the like her earliest things that she did, and. Also, like Eve Hewson, also she just has this quality about her where she looks young and mature at the same time. Like she's literally my age. Like we were born around the same time. But like when I see her, I see somebody like older than me, but also like that doesn't take away from like this movie showing that she is still somebody who is youthful. So yeah, she has an interesting quality about her in that way. And I think it has a lot to do with her acting, but also the way that it definitely seems like John Carney like built a lot of this movie around her and like found her as a person and was just like, man, she would make a great, centerpiece in this kind of movie. Although I don't know for sure, like where everything sort of began again. Yeah. Gordon-Levitt, I'm less enthused by in this. I think he's okay, but I don't think I don't know if it's the writing or if it's just the limitations, but I don't know. I felt like he was kind of sleepy in this. I don't know.
You talking about Joseph Gordon-Levitt?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was sorry, I was chuckling before because you were like, I see this older, kind of more mature person in Eve Hewson, and I was imagining like he's the leader of a rock band, and he tours all over the world.
Yeah. He puts like songs. When I want to listen to him, I don't have to look for his songs; they just show up on my phone.
Oh, that is funny. I didn't even make the connection that like Apple like put that U2 album on everyone's.
Yeah. Well, Apple and U2 have had a relationship for a long time. Product Red, stuff like that. I'm of course very aware of that sort of things in my work. But yeah, I shouldn't comment any further. So
sure, yeah. But yeah, I didn't even make the connection that like her father has a history of just Apple dropping his music on people's servers, and now Apple was just dropping his daughter's music.
Yeah, there you go. I liked some. I didn't love the music in this, but weirdly enough, I like sort of hate like the Suns thing that he does, like for the girl. And I like the rooftop song they do, her and the Jeff character. I think that was like a pretty decent one. The movie tries to end like Wild Rose doesn't nail it. I don't think the song is quite there. I think it's fun. It's kind of written in a nice way, and I like how imperfect it is. It's not like this big showstopper, but I think the movie was kind of building up to a Wild Rose moment, and like Wild Rose really, like, that movie made me feel something at the very end. This movie, I was kind of like, oh, it's over. Okay, that was nice.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I mean, I did think. I won't give away like the components of the last number. But like when they show the group shot, I'm like, in what world is this not a huge mess?
Like, I know, right?
Like, yeah, but
it's pretty silly. It was pretty silly. You're right.
Yeah. But no, I mean, I think it's a very, I think I like the music is good, but like I think with a couple exceptions, like it never feels like too clean or too polished.
It's more believable.
Yeah.
I think with like Sing Street has this kind of mythical quality to it when it comes to the music, but it has in-movie reasons for that, because they are basically ripping off these like 80s pop stars, these rock stars. And so you can kind of believe it. And also like the characters are written to be sort of like prodigious. In this movie, that's not, I think Carney was very deliberate about that. They probably could have amped the music up, but we're like, no, like that's not this movie, which I respect that.
Yeah. But to answer your earlier question, I don't know. I guess I was a little bit kinder to Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Maybe I'm just like kind of happy to see him in things nowadays because
I like him a lot as a person. I mean, we've always gotten along.
Well, no, but I mean, like as a screen presence, I always kind of find him kind of charming because I don't know. Like I feel like he was on a really good hot streak like 10 years ago, and then now, like I feel like he doesn't really. I don't know if it's like hit record or like what he's been keeping busy with. I know he had like an Apple show that he was like pretty heavily involved with that only lasts like a season, but yeah, I mean like like when he pops up in things now, it feels like you're never like major events. Like there was like that Airplane movie that came out during the pandemic that he was like good in, but didn't rock the needle or anything like that.
I think his last like terrific movie was Don John, and I think and that was 10 years ago. But to what you're saying, I mean, the guy went from like, he was having such a like Premium Rush, Looper, Lincoln, Inception. I mean, he was just like, he was all over it. And I remember 500 Days of Summer even before that. And then Don John was really, really great. And, he had good stuff after that for sure. Like, like The Walk, but
it's fun. Yeah.
Yeah, but nothing like super remarkable that he was like a main guy in. Like he just kind of like shows up here and there in certain things, and like he started showing up in some like Netflix stuff. I think Trial of Chicago 7, he was in that, I think, and I don't know.
Oh, I forgot he was in that. Well, yeah,
he's going to be in the Beverly Hills Cop movie.
Oh yeah,
they already filmed that. Yeah.
So
we'll see how that goes.
I mean, what happened there? But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It is interesting, because I did see that. I think this week was like the 10-year anniversary of Don John. I know you're not on Twitter anymore, but like people were kind of having, kind of interesting discussions about the film, like whether or not it's really aged well or not. But I mean, for whatever faults that movie may have, I don't know. I mean, it's been,
that's a good movie.
It's been literally a decade since I've seen it, but you really see the promise of him as a, star and director. And, you can just tell he has like a lot of, innate presence and, really can just shine as a performer. We forgot he was also in that Pinocchio, Robert Zemeckis movie as Jiminy Cricket.
I didn't forget. I just didn't want to.
Sure.
I didn't want to do that to the guy.
Sure. But yeah, I mean, like you said, it's mostly just been kind of streaming stuff of late, which is unfortunate. But yeah, I mean, as far as his performance here is concerned, I think he's, more serviceable, I think, than good. But yeah, I don't think it's it's not a performance I'm going to fault. It is one that I think is meant to kind of rely more on his charm than his like acting ability. But I think he fit the role pretty well.
I agree. Yeah, it's more like not a lot is asked of him, so I can't really fault the guy. It's just sort of like he's a very perfunctory sort of character. And I think it's because the real attention is on Eve Hewson's character, as it should be. And I think it works out to the movie's benefit more often than it doesn't. It's just sort of, I don't know. I think I do appreciate that the movie avoids some of the like tropey stuff of like, well, we got to have this thing happen right before the third act. We have to hit this formula. Like for a movie that does fall into Carney formula so much, I'm glad it does in some respects, because Carney tends to avoid some really tropey things, and it's made his movies kind of resemble each other because he goes back to that well. But because a lot of other movies don't do what he does, to me, it still feels like refreshing, and it just sort of feels like I'm watching the mark of, dare I say it, an auteur. But yeah, no, a good movie. And I think it's not, I think, a rush out and see it in theaters movie. I mean, obviously it's fun to watch John Carney with an audience if you can. But yeah, I would honestly, most of the movies I've seen from him actually have been in like on a screen by myself. I think the only movie I saw with an audience was Sing Street, and not even the first time. Like the first time I watched Sing Street was on my own, and then I think Begin Again I saw on the big screen, but that's it. I didn't see once with an audience, which I feel like I must have missed out, huh?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I can't say I've seen any of his movies theatrically, which I guess is a little surprising. But yeah I guess because I just kind of innately imagine his movies being very, intimate and homey and all that. So I guess it just feels more comfortable to watch him at home.
I'll tell you what I was. You want to know what I was doing while I was watching Flora and Son?
Is it PG?
Yeah, of course. Jesus, I was making macaroni and cheese, man. Yeah, I have like a very elaborate mac and cheese from scratch recipe. So I was like grating cheese, and I was like doing the pasta, and it was a nice time in my kitchen, watching a John Carney movie, tapping my toes to the music. All right, let's play the Rotten Tomatoes game.
All right.
Flora and Son.
I'm surprised you didn't watch this at Sundance.
I don't remember if I was able to, because I don't know if it was one of the ones that you could watch online. Because I remember wanting to pretty badly, because I knew it was Carney, and that not being able to happen was pretty sad. Because I watched everything that I could that was like on my radar, but I don't remember the details. So we have 93 reviews counted. I think a bunch of them are from Sundance. But now that it's on streaming, I think more reviews are going to come trickling in. But let's capture this moment in time, Lashin. What do you think the Rotten Tomatoes score is?
Oh, I think it's going to be strong. It could be in the 90%, but maybe now that, like, I don't know. If the reviews out of Sundance are as strong as they were then, but like the reviews post Sundance is what I meant to say. But I'm going to say 86%.
86%? It is not. It is 95.
Okay, yeah. I was wondering if this was going to be in the 90s.
Yeah, and I could see it going a little bit down though to what you're saying. What about audience score? We don't have a lot of ratings, fewer than 50. So this one's a little bit more of a crapshoot. But what do you think?
Was it like something super high, like 98%?
No, it's 85.
Okay, so it was by flip-flop.
Yeah, a little bit surprising. And I did want to read this one review off Letterboxd. So this is a 3.5-star review by Jared Mubarak. Flora and Son might not be as great as Once or Sing Street, but it is charmingly sweet and funny, en route to a rousing bow-tied ending performance that should have you leaving with a smile on your face. So I think pretty in line with how I feel about the movie. Amanda the Jedi also gave it nice marks. And then I'm trying to find like a negative review, but there just aren't a lot. I mean, people are giving it like 3 stars. I'm seeing plenty of 4 stars. Here we go. Okay. This one is 2.5. Pretty long though. So I won't do the whole thing, but this is by Rose Esposito. I've read Rose's work before. Yeah, I'm brave enough to say it. This is a movie about why Ireland should have legalized abortion way sooner. Jesus. And I support that message. But man. This largely did not work for me, which is apparently not a popular opinion. I assumed I'd enjoy it in a slightly less, in a slightly bland sort of way, but some writing choices really threw me. Our protagonist is an unlikable single mom who throws herself at every man in sight, takes up a new hobby just to impress men, hates her kid, and blames everyone else for her choices. Did the subreddit Nice Guys write this? Or maybe our gatekeeping, judging by how she had to be taught by a man to understand real music? Not that pop SHIT she likes. I don't appreciate having both sides now weaponized like that. A man literally tells her to name 5 bands for Christ's sake. I'm all about flawed female characters, yeah, but not when their flaws are entirely built around and then seemingly fixed by men. I'm not even sure this one passes the Bechdel test, and it easily could. Even the subplot with the son and his crush has unsettling girls want bad boys and not nice guys vibes. The final act does allow for some meaningful character growth, but I don't know, not entirely for the right reasons. She's never allowed to really change and find herself in a way that's not framed as selfish. I'm a sentient human and therefore not immune to the charms of Joseph Gordon-Levitt. And some of the songs are indeed catchy, though not even close to Drive It Like You Stole It. I definitely agree with that. Which I still maintain was robbed of an Oscar nom. But the would-be charm of it all was soured by a lot of these details, and I guess I'm destined to be alone in my cross-armed displeasure. I should never have trusted a guy who randomly insulted Keira Knightley for no reason. That very fair point in that last one. I gotta say, I really disagree with the takeaway here, but I can see where Rose is coming from, honestly. I could definitely see reading that into, like, this is a female character who gets fixed by men. I don't think that's really, though, in the text, at least not from what I saw. I got the sense that, like, guys were trying to fix her, and if anything, she was rejecting them and doing things her own way. That was my takeaway, at least. But, you know, certainly, like, people can interpret things differently, for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it feels a little bad faithy to me as far as like trying to read it. I mean, I'm not saying the text doesn't support some of that, but I agree. I feel like my takeaway from the film was that she was doing this for her own purposes. It wasn't so much like she was trying to like please the men in her life, with maybe the exception of her son. But you know, I mean, I think what's interesting about her is that like her motivation does kind of change at times. Like there are moments where she like kind of wants to do it too.
Yeah, that's a pretty fair criticism. Yeah.
But I think ultimately it is. I think it's a film that's about a woman trying to kind of find herself through music, which is so crucial to Carney's filmography, and also obviously like characters finding harmony not only in life but in their guitar.
Yeah. And I know Rosa, I've read Rosa's work before, and you know, they aren't a bad faith person. I think I'm seeing like certain things happen in this movie that sort of like, you know, brought up certain, you know, like a displeasure that Rosa's speaking to, that I totally can see why that would happen. And I guess my thing was that when I was watching these guys do that, like try to be like, although the name 5 bands, I was like, you know, but I thought I was like seeing through her eyes like how annoying that was, because I didn't see the Eve Hewson character take that to heart. I didn't see her change herself to like sort of satisfy that pretentiousness. If anything, I saw her sort of again like reject it and be like, nah, you know, like she makes a song with her son that is not like the kind of song that the Joseph Gordon-Levitt character likes. But you know, an interesting thing to bring up for sure. And then I'll do one more. Do like a positive one. So this is a 4-star review by Zane Grey. The first one was 3.5 stars. This one's 4 stars. So this is Zane Grey said, John Carney has this beautiful and natural act for creating stories where music serves as the most integral element. He then couples it with compelling and inspiring characters that fill your heart and soul. This might not be better than Sing Street, but damn, it's real close. Flora and Son is heartbreaking at times, but there's so many feel-good moments. Eve Hewson is incredibly endearing, but man, do I love seeing Joseph Gordon-Levitt return to co-leading a movie. Loved every minute of this. I don't totally agree. I'm glad though that Zane liked the movie as much as he did, but I wouldn't say that it's close to as good as Sing Street. Maybe you do, because like I think Sing Street, you're not worshiping that movie like I am. So, but yeah,
but I still think that's like a good film in a way. It's like it's like pretty good. Like it's solid. Like I feel like, you know, as you were saying before, like if I were to rate this, I'd probably give it like a 3 out of 5. Like it's definitely worth the watch, especially if you don't, you know, have to go out of your way to see it. If it's on Apple TV, I think you're going to get a lot out of it if you love this kind of film. But yeah, I don't think it really, I don't know. It doesn't feel as personal to me. It doesn't feel as exploitative. I can't say it reaches that level, but
yeah, it feels like a fun movie that John Carney made with some friends, which I'm totally happy with myself. We'll finish out with the Letterboxd average. So it's 2.3 thousand watches. Very, very, very low. As I guess to be expected. This is the Sundance crowd kind of reacting to the movie. But Will, what do you think? Out of 4, what do you think this rating is?
Out of 4?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, out of 5. Jeez.
I was going to say, I was really confused there. I'm going to say, is it like 4.1 right now?
It is not. It is 3.6. Which I think, like looking, I think because I saw a lot of 3.5s, I'm like, okay, yeah, that tracks.
Okay,
Although I think I misspoke earlier. So I meant the Jedi gave it 4 stars. For some reason, I was thinking she gave it 3. And I'll read what she had here. And it's fitting, right? Because we talked about the last Eve Hewson thing on this show. But so Man of the Jedi said, "So glad to end the fest at Sundance off at the Mountain Resort with some quality. Would have liked to see a bit more with the sun and for someone to appear at the end, but really enjoyable." So won't speak to that specifically. It's because I would give away certain things. But yeah. I kind of like that the movie didn't do a certain thing at the end.
Sure.
Me personally, I kind of like that the movie did that. I thought it was actually more realistic. But I could see why, I will admit, I think a little bit of my heart twinged at a certain way, but that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Hollywood version of this film would have had blank happening, but yeah, it's better that it goes the way it did.
We'll be back, not next week, I guess, but like pretty soon. I want to say, who knows? We're going to talk about The Creator. Will, I think, are you planning to watch that in like Dolby or anything, or do you have any plans?
I'm going to try to. I really do love original sci-fi, and especially, something like this where it seems to be getting good reviews. It seems like people, I haven't seen universal praise, I'll admit, but
yeah, it's an interestingly received, like, not to get ahead of the Rotten Tomatoes game for it, but yeah, it's a movie that's kind of contentious and polarizing. There are people like me who really love it, and I've been seeing some people who I respect who are like, this ain't it, or they have at least like, this is good, but like severe criticism. So I'm really fascinated by the reaction to it and what you might think.
Yeah, I didn't realize I knew you liked it. I didn't realize you loved it. So that's interesting.
Maybe love is a strong word. I gave it a 9 out of 10 on In Between Drafts.
That's a lot.
That is pretty high, yeah. And I think that, I think it's deserving. And I labored over that score because I was like, I really want to give this movie a lot of credit because it is just, I had quite an experience with it. And I hope when you watch it in a really good format. I saw it in Dolby IMAX, which I'll admit, maybe it's because of the Oppenheimer effect. I didn't feel like the IMAX was like that crisp, but the Dolby itself was like really, really cool to see. So if you could catch it at least in Dolby, I think that you might be happy.
I'll keep that in mind for sure.
We'll see y'all next time from the Internet California. I'm John Carney.
And from the Internet Pennsylvania, I'm Will.
We will begin again.
There you go.
Bye.
You got it. Bye.